Walk with me through something my grandson asked me to do. At 92 years old, this is one of the only dreams I've got left in my life. After my wife, the love of my life for 52 years, passed away 4 years ago, I never figured I'd be doing much of anything but waiting out my time in this house. But here we are. Let me tell you how this came about. My grandson Eli is 15 years old. He's obsessed with YouTube, has been for years. Watches one fella every single night. Kid with the chocolate bars and the big contests. What's his name? Mr. Beast. That's the one. The boy Eli wants to be when he grows up. And for about that long. Every Saturday, Eli comes over to the house. He wants me to tell him stories about when I was a boy growing up on a farm outside Mason City in the 1930s, about my 4 years in the U.S. Army as a medic during the war, about 32 years on the ambulance, about his grandmother and our wedding day, and what the world used to look like before any of you were born. He sits right there across from me in his grandmother's chair, and he just listens. One Saturday afternoon a couple months back, he looked at me and he said, "Grandpa, why don't I just record you?" I told him no. I said, "Eli, I'm 92 years old. The internet's no place for an old man like me." He looked at me dead serious. He said, "Grandpa, then your stories die with you. Every single one of them, when you're gone." My daughter Sarah, that's Eli's mom, she was standing in the kitchen behind him drying a dish. She didn't say anything, but she gave me a look. The kind of look that told me the boy was right and she knew it. I told him no anyway. Old habits. Then a few weeks later, Eli turned 15. His parents got him a real camera for his birthday, the kind you put on a tripod. He brought it over the next Saturday, set it up right there in front of me in this living room. Then he looked at me and he said, "Grandpa, please, I want to take this channel to 100,000 people in 30 days. I think your stories can do it. Please." I sat there a minute, looked at this 15-year-old kid with his camera in his hand, asking me to be part of something he believes in with his whole heart. And I thought to myself, what in heck have I got to lose at 92 years old? So I said yes. So here we are. Now, before we go any further, you ought to know who's doing the talking. My name is Walter Henrik Anderson. Folks named me after my old man, Henrik Anderson, but everybody just called him Hank. Most people call me Walt. The only one who ever called me Walter was my wife. And the boys at the fire station for 32 years called me Doc. I was born March 14th, 1934, right here in Mason City, Iowa. Lived in this same little town my whole life, except for the 4 years the Army had me. My dad, Hank, was a John Deere mechanic. Worked at the dealership on South Federal for 41 years until the day he died. My mom, Ellie, was a dressmaker. Kept her sewing machine on the kitchen table from the time I was born. Her people came over from Denmark in the 1870s, settled this whole part of Iowa. My dad's folks did the same. Came over from a little town called Aarhus a few years later. So I'm Danish on both sides, even though I never set foot in Denmark in my whole life. Probably never will either. Folks had 5 of us, 3 sisters, 1 brother, and me. Margaret, Ruth, Robert, Jean. I'm the last one. Margaret went in 2018, Ruth in 2021, Robert in 2008, heart attack. Dropped dead in his driveway shoveling snow. And little Jean, she was the baby, 3 years younger than me. She went in 2023. Cancer. Tell you what, it's a strange thing to be the last one. I think about it every morning. Graduated Mason City High in 1952. Worked a year at my dad's shop. Then spring of '53, I drove down to the recruiter's office on Federal Avenue and signed up for the Army. They trained me as a medic down at Fort Sam Houston in Texas. That's where they train every Army medic in this country. Has been since back before I was even thought of. I served 4 years. I'm not going to tell you much about that. Not in this video. Not in any video. There are some things a man keeps for himself. The boys I served with, when I see them now at reunions, when there's still enough of us to have one, we mostly talk about our grandkids and the weather. We don't say much about what happened over there. That's how it is with most of us. When I came home, I went to nursing school on the GI Bill, 2 years. Worked as a nurse at Mercy Hospital here in Mason City for 13 years after that. Then in 1971, I joined the Mason City Fire Department as a firefighter paramedic. One of the first certified paramedics in this whole part of the state. Civilian EMS was a brand new thing back then. We were making it up as we went. I rode that ambulance for 32 years. Pulled people out of cars on I-35. Did CPR on linoleum kitchen floors. Delivered 3 babies. Picked up bodies. Held the hand of more dying folks than I can count. Walked into more bedrooms at 3 in the morning than I want to remember. Most of what I learned about people, about life, about death, about who you really are when the chips are down, I learned riding that ambulance. Now, Mary Ellen. I met her at a church picnic at the First Lutheran in the summer of 1968. I was 34. She was 27. 3rd grade teacher at Roosevelt Elementary. She'd teach there 38 years. Standing next to the lemonade table, laughing at something her sister had said. Wearing a yellow dress that I can still see plain as I see you right now. I made a darn fool of myself walking over there. Tripped on a tree root. Spilled lemonade right down the front of her yellow dress. You know what she did? She laughed. Didn't get mad. Didn't fuss. Looked at me and said, "Well, mister, if you wanted my attention, you got it." 2 years later, we got married in that same First Lutheran church. May 24th, 1970. We stayed married 52 years and 10 months, until the morning of April 14th, 2022. She had a stroke. She'd made it to the kitchen for breakfast. I was in the bathroom, shaving. Heard a noise like a pan hitting the floor. Came out and she was on the kitchen tile, looking up at me with this look on her face I still can't describe right. Like she knew. Like she was trying to tell me something and the words wouldn't come out. I'd been a paramedic for 32 years. I'd seen probably 100 strokes in my career. Knew exactly what I was looking at the second I walked in. Called 911. Sat down on the floor next to her. Held her hand the whole time we waited. She squeezed my hand. Twice. Then she was gone. That was 4 years and 1 month and 12 days ago. I've been sitting in this chair most of the time since. There's a coffee mug of hers in the kitchen, white with little blue flowers. I set out every morning next to mine. I don't fill it. I just set it out. Been doing it 4 years. So that's me. That's the man doing the talking. Now, over the next 30 days, you're going to hear things I never told my own children. The night in 1981, I almost walked out on my marriage, and what Mary Ellen did that saved us. The call I went on in 1986 that I never told another living soul about, not even her, and what it cost me 30 years later. The friendship I lost after 40 years that I'd give my left arm to do over. The promise I made to her before she died that I almost didn't keep. I'm not going to lecture you. I'm not going to sell you anything. I'm not going to pretend I have it all figured out. I'm just going to talk. Tell you what I learned, what I got wrong, what I got right, what I'd do over if I could. Tomorrow is day one. I'm going to tell you about holding Mary Ellen's hand on that kitchen floor that morning in April, and how I did not cry. Not for 3 days. I'm going to tell you why, and what it cost me, and what I want you to do different. It's the biggest mistake I made in 92 years on this earth, and I'm going to lay it out for you tomorrow. If you want to come along, if you want to help a 15-year-old kid in Iowa make his grandfather's stories outlive him, hit that little red button down there. Eli says that's how this works. He says we need 100,000 of you pushing it before day 30. To Mary Ellen, wherever you are, sweetheart, I know you'd be laughing at me right now. The man who couldn't work the microwave without calling you in to help, sitting in your chair across from a camera. You'd be tickled pink. I hope you can see it from up there. I hope you know I'm still here. I'm still here. All right, that's day 0. Tomorrow's day 1. See you right here. Same chair. One story ready. Walk with me.